Hey everybody, welcome to Zoom Career Bites. We are excited to have you with us. Zoom Career Bites is a weekly event that we have every Wednesday from 12 to 12:30, where business executives present on topics to help us with our job searching skills. After that 30 minutes, we'll have 10 to 15 minutes if there's additional questions that can be asked. But today, as we go along, you can ask your questions live through the process, and our speaker will track them at the bottom of the screen, and he will speak to them and address them. So if you look at the bottom of your screen, you'll see that Q&A function, and there you can enter your questions. Today's topic is about how do you stand out in a growing crowd of job seekers. This is critical at this time with all the crazy things that are going on. There are many of us and many of our friends and family who may have lost a job or may be in fear of losing a job. Or there may be individuals that just want to make a change of jobs, get a job that perhaps provides them more security, or a job that is more in line with where they want to go with their career. And with all this increasing competition, it's so important that you find a way to stand out, find a way to clearly communicate to the recruiters, those that you are connecting with, why you're the right person for the job. And to speak with us on this topic, we are excited to have Matt Christensen be able to address this and share with us his insights and his wisdom. Matt is the director of cybersecurity at Intermountain Healthcare, and he loves all things related to cybersecurity and anti-fraud. He's really a geek in this part of the world, but he also combines that with an incredible love for helping others to break into their industries and helping others to move forward in their careers. And that's why he's perfect for this discussion today. Matt takes his cybersecurity background and he combines that with this love to help others, and he applies it in his position on Weber State's MIS Advisory Board. So we're lucky to have his commitment and his willingness to reach back and help other people. Matt received his Bachelor of Arts in Information Systems and his Master's of Science Information Systems at the University of Utah. He's a certified fraud examiner. He's a podcaster. He's a public speaker. And overall, he's an exceptionally bright person who has a really good understanding for the marketplace. So that's why we thought Matt would be fantastic, the right person to come and talk about this topic. So with that, let me turn it over to you, Matt.
Brett, thank you very much. Let me see if I can successfully share my screen here. That's always the first test of a true geek. Can you use Zoom? So just let me know when you're all able to see.
All right, we see it, Matt.
Okay, great. Well, again, Brett, thanks for that wonderful introduction. Most of that was true. The part that is extremely true is that I am honored to be here. I love working with our local colleges, our students. I love helping people find internships and landing career jobs. It's part of me. I've been given that extra hand many times in my career, and I feel that I can play a small part and provide that offer back. Now, my wife is she bleeds purple. She graduated from Weber State's dental hygiene program, and so we definitely have a strong connection with Weber State. So today we're going to talk about how you can really stand out in an already crowded crowd. Now, it is a little ironic that we're doing this during COVID, and depending on who's obeying and who's not, the crowds vary in size. But I think if we conceptually think about a very large crowd that are all applying for the same job that you're after, and many of them come from the same cohort. And so you really are competing against even those that you were sitting next to in class. Now, I don't ever look at classmates as truly competitors, because the person you are sitting next to in class could be your next boss, or they may be your next hire. So we're really all in this together. So that's what we wanted to go through today, is just some simple tips and tricks that I've learned through my career, that people have taught me or that I've learned on my own. And I hope this is of value to you. You'll notice that we want this to be interactive, so do please use that Q&A box down below. Click on that if you have questions throughout. And Brad, I'll just ask you, if I miss that, you just chime in and interrupt me, and we'll make this as interactive as much as possible.
You got it.
So just a really brief introduction. I actually don't like talking to about myself a lot, but I think it is worth some. There's value in it for a couple of reasons. Brett mentioned that I do love all things cybersecurity and anti-fraud. That was originally, I wanted to be in law enforcement and then do military, and that wasn't the path I ended up taking. Thankfully, it wasn't the right path for me. But I can now support people in those positions through the knowledge that I've learned and gained. I do own I own a couple side businesses, and I run a podcast, and just try and really give back as much as I possibly can. I'm a certification junkie, so regardless of what industry you're in and the type of career you want, you're going to hear this throughout today. I am a huge advocate for certifications, and we'll spend more on that later. And I also love trail running. I've taken a little bit of a hiatus right now, just for some family circumstances, but it's definitely a part of me. I've seen a variety of these memes before, where it's, this is what I think I look like, and this is what I actually look like. And I threw that in there for running just because it's something that I enjoy, and hopefully you'll be able to remember that. But it's also very pertinent for when you're applying for that first job, or when you're ready to go from a frontline staff level position to something more senior. Maybe you want to go a more technical route, something very more niche, or maybe you want to go for an executive route. Every point in our career, we always think we're one place when really we're another. And so what I'm about to go through today is just some things that can keep us all, myself included, in check. Just the fact that you're here today on this live webinar, or if you're watching the recorded version after the fact, you're already standing out ahead of the crowd. You're standing at the very front of the crowd, or you're standing taller than the crowd. You're doing something more that the other peers and others in that industry that are seeking for that same job aren't doing. So right now, you should already start to feel pretty good and pretty confident that you're going that extra step. To be able to stand out, you have to learn and accept that you have to do things different than everyone else. And that can go very good for you, or if you try and do things too different, that can go very bad. And again, we'll give some examples on that. I get asked all the time, how on earth do I get hired when I don't have the experience? How can I get 3 to 5 years experience for this job that I want, that I should be able to get, but no one's willing to give me experience? I get asked that a lot. I can't quantify it, but I can tell you it's a lot. And my biggest thing is, look, you just need to be confident and trust in what you do have and the knowledge that you have gained, and not to lie about it. If truly what you have is your degree, the coursework, your project work, all of that is relevant to an employer. It may not be exactly what they're looking for, and that's okay, but there's someone that is. Or you may just be not selling yourself. You may need to tell a different story, and that's what we're going to get into as well. Is it kind of breaks my heart when I hear people say, I'm just going to give up because I don't have that 3 to 5 years experience, and I won't ever get anyone to give me that. And so now I'm just going to go down a totally different route. And it's like, don't give up on your dreams. If this is what you were called to do, whether it's a veterinarian, a dental hygienist, a nerd like me, then that's what we're going to stick with. So don't undersell yourself when it comes to the experience that you have. These are some things that I did early on in my career when I did find it very difficult to stand out. Now, when I went through, when I got my undergraduate degree, I was self-employed at the time. I owned a business, very busy with that, going through school. And then I decided that I wanted to get a technical career. I loved what I was doing before, but I knew it wasn't a career, it was more of a job. And so I started applying for positions. I followed a lot of what probably many of you have done. I went through job boards, I worked with recruiters. I applied to 50 jobs. I didn't get a single call back, not one. And well, the truth is I did get one call back and it was a wrong number. Like, that's how bad it was. And at first I was blaming the industry. You know, this is just, it's too saturated. There's more candidates than there are positions. And then I started thinking, well, maybe I should have gone to a different school. Or I was pointing the blame at every possible reason except for the real reason, and it was me. I wasn't finding ways to be different. I was going through the grind and just doing everything that everyone else was. And by doing so, I was getting the same results that everyone else was, rejection letter after rejection letter. And it took a process for me to go through that and just say, okay, maybe it is a competitive market. Maybe I am getting into something that is extremely difficult. Yes, I don't have the required experience, but I know I can do this, and I just need someone to give me a chance. So these are just some things that I did to try and break through and try and break in and try and just break that mold of not looking like every other candidate out there. Now, fast forward as an employer and as a manager that hires, there are certainly things that I can look at now and go like, well, I wouldn't have hired me. I was doing everything wrong, right? And then I look at the people that we do bring in and hire and what they're doing right, and that's what we're going to teach you. So don't do what everyone else does. Don't complain. Just instead, be relentless, be tenacious, always be in that learning mode. We're going to hit on extracurricular activities, volunteering, things like that, and networking as well. Now, you'll notice that the title of this slide changed, but nothing else did. Let me back up. So this is how I stood out when I was early in my career, and this is how I continue to try and stand out. Nothing changed. It's the same thing. So that's no matter where you're at in your career, if you're going after your first job, or if you're mid-career and you're now in your degree and you're just changing fields, or whatever your case may be, these principles all stay the same. Let's talk quickly about investing time in the resume. And I don't want to spend too much time on this because most of you probably see this slide and you're just like, oh, we've heard enough about resumes. Well, unless you have a connection, a direct connection with the company that you're applying for, this is your billboard. This is everything. You're one shot for them to say, do I want to bring them in to interview? Do I want to even call them back? Or are we just going to send them that reject letter that we're all familiar with? My advice as a hiring manager is never inflate your resume. I've been in interviews where I asked them about some technical skills that they had claimed they had. They clearly didn't, and the interview was over at that point. I've had others where, similar to what you see on the screen, they try to be really cute with their resume. Now, one could interpret that as they're doing things different than everyone else. This would be a bad example of something to do differently. And the other thing is just don't shortcut. Don't try and cut corners on your resume, whether it's through the detail or whether it's like, well, it's good enough, I just want to blast this out to as many people as I possibly can, or as many companies as I can. Really, I always recommend you tailor the resume to the specific job that you're applying for, and we'll talk more on that. But spend time on your resume and don't ask your family to give you feedback on it. I I love my family. I made that mistake, and it was all 5 stars to them. What I should have done was send this to 4 or 5 people in the industry to say, hey, I know you're not hiring. Can you just look at this and tell me what feedback you would have? And you'd be surprised at how many people will say, yeah, I will look at it. And especially if you word it in a way like, can you just give me, in the next 3 weeks, can you look at this? And any pointers, send them back to me. Now you just got yourself with your name recognized to them. So that's another way in. Instead, I'm a big believer that resumes should be simple. They should tell the truth. They should be factual. They should present the experience that you really have. So this is one, you've probably seen it. It's very simple. Now this, I don't know if she's currently still is the CEO of Yahoo. I haven't followed Yahoo for a while, but at one point she was. And she graduated from Stanford. So there's a lot she could brag about. But if you look at this, it's very clear, concise, and to the point. So these are the types of resumes when I receive them, I love, because I don't, it's not someone who doesn't have any experience that puts together an 8-page resume. I wouldn't read that as a hiring manager, and most businesses won't either. So, but you can tell here it's very clean, very professional. Now, in my field, I work in cybersecurity and anti-fraud. That means we help stop bad guys. That's what we do all day. I get asked all of the time, how can I break into that field if I don't have any military experience, or if I don't have a law enforcement, criminal justice degree, things like that. And so one of the things, the exercises that I teach people is, okay, take a look at the job requirements that you see in the postings and list those out, kind of in that functions and duties. List out all of the jobs that you've had. Now, you might want to avoid the 12 to 16 window, because most of us were delivering newspapers or mowing lawns or things like that. But start where you really had responsibility and list out all of your jobs that you've done, whether even if you were at fast food, working fast food, or it doesn't matter what you did, but list out all the jobs that you had and the functions that you were assigned. What were some of the things that you did relevant to that job? When you start doing that, you can actually pull in relevant experience, even if it's in a completely different industry. So an example here would be a sales clerk. That was one of my first jobs. And my primary job was to sell cameras and camera equipment. But if you look at some of the functions and duties I had and you list that out, well, actually I took in payments, and I had to reconcile all of the receivables. I had to deposit the funds. We had to do a number of functions that didn't have to do with selling cameras, and all of those functions and duties are relevant. So on a resume, instead of listing camera salesman, you could describe your function in a way that's relevant to the job you're applying for. So again, that's just a template that I built that I share often. If anyone wants that, I put my contact information on LinkedIn throughout the slide deck. Just shoot me a quick note and I'd be happy to share it with you. And then you can make it tailored to your industry that you're applying for. I'm a huge fan of job boards, and I won't spend too much time on here, but I'm an intelligence junkie. I look at everything, I analyze things. Job boards are the best way to find out if you don't have the experience and you're not getting the callbacks, or you want to grow from a staff position to a senior position. This is how you can find out what the market wants. So even if you love your current job and you're trying to say, hey boss, recognize me, this is what I bring to the table, go to a job board and take a look at what are some of the very specific details that employers are looking for. So in this example, it lists different responsibilities and different requirements. The requirements are always the easy one. Go to that and look at it. And now for this job, okay, I have to have these licenses. I have to dress professionally. I have to be organized. Those are all perfect things that you can then tailor into your resume. So like one of the things talks about here is strong interpersonal skills and a desire for professional growth. Well, on your resume, you could put, I love people. You need to word it more professionally, right? But then you want to list out that and just say, I'm a life learner and I'm actually studying to get these types of certifications. When people see that, they can look past the number of years of experience and then dive deeper into, okay, is this someone that actually wants to continue to work? Do they just want a job or do they want a career? So I'm a huge fan of job boards. Now, the other way you can use a job board is to find out what types of certifications are not just a nice to have, but are actually required for the job that you want. So I use Indeed.com all the time. I'll type in, the dream job that I'm trying to help someone find. We'll look at what they actually require, and then now they know exactly which ones they need to be studying for. But often in our college classes, we don't learn what is it the industry wants in terms of certifications, and that's a great place to find that. In-person networking. Now, for my introverted friends, you might look at this and go, oh, not for me. I hate crowds. I hate talking to people. Well, guess what? It's COVID, so we kind of all do right now. So when you look at in-person networking, this is probably one of the best ways that you can stand out from a crowd. I participate on a board where we have around 100 people generally come to receive a training, and each of these people all work from different organizations. And often we invite students to come to these trainings. They're given by law enforcement or industry experts around cybersecurity and anti-fraud. And we'll invite these students to come often, and it's really natural for them to want to just all sit at the exact same table because they know who they're sitting by, and everyone else is a stranger, and it's a strange environment. But I'll tell you, the students that stand out ahead of everyone else are the ones that don't sit with their friends. They get a little uncomfortable, and they go and sit at a table full of very seasoned professionals. And it's okay, if you're an introvert, then your goal should be to talk to the person next to you and say, hi, I'm Matt Christensen. I'm a student at Weber State, and I'm trying to find a job in this field. And it's that simple. And you'll be amazed at how willing people are to extend their hand and say, oh, well, that's great. I actually know someone who's trying to hire for a position like that. Or, hey, here's my business card. I want you to stay in touch. So in-person networking is huge. What I did early on, since it was a very difficult industry to break into, is I found that there was a local chapter of professionals that got together monthly. And I said, I don't have any industry experience. I bring very little to the table, but if you have a position on your board where, maybe I just take notes and I send them at the end of the meeting, or if you need someone to send emails, there's a lot of things anyone's capable of doing. And they gave me a board seat just like that because I asked. And surprisingly enough, there's not a lot of even seasoned professionals that want to be on boards. And so just the takeaway is, whatever industry you're in, go and do a search on it and find out if there's a board that you can just join. And again, volunteer yourself. Online networking is huge. I don't think I would be anywhere where I'm at without the power of LinkedIn. Now, depending on where you are, you hear the term social media and you might think Snapchat, or you might think Facebook, or you might think anything in between. On this one, I'm just going to stay focused on LinkedIn, although there is other groups like Google Hangouts and Facebook groups. There's a lot of places you can go to and start hanging out with the people virtually that you want to work for, or the industry you want to be in. Now, I put that number 100,000 in there. I don't think we have the chat functioning, but if I were to ask what that 100,000 number represents in a live audience, I'd get a variety of answers. And no, it's not the number of connections that I'm after. That 100,000 is the average salary of a person on LinkedIn. So a lot of people think of LinkedIn as an old person's network, or you only use that if you want to find a job, or something that has just died out and it's completely irrelevant. And that could not be further from the truth. LinkedIn is probably the best way, especially right now in a difficult hiring climate, in the COVID climate that we're in, and the restrictions that are placed across the globe. This really is the best place to be spending and investing your time and getting to know everyone in your industry. Um, Let me try and do a quick, I'm gonna break away from my slide deck real quick. I wanna just do one thing here. Can you guys still see Brett, can you still see my LinkedIn screen?
Yeah, I can. Yeah.
All right, perfect. So I don't know if the chat feature's working, but if so, is there an industry someone wants to give me that they're trying to get hired in for? Or Brett, if you know of one.
Guys, the chat feature's not, but you can just go in the Q&A and you can enter it in there.
While we're doing that, Brett, why don't you throw out an industry you know students are interested in getting into?
Let's talk about banking.
Banking, so finance, very good. The power of LinkedIn is amazing. You can type in the industry and then you can drill down. Again, I'm a data guy, I'm a nerd that way. If you want to start connecting with people in banking, you can do that right here. If you want to look at people that have current jobs in banking, that's another way. I always filter by location, and I always try and start local. If my plan is to stay local, then that's exactly where I go. So that's the main thing, is being able to just leverage that power of searching within it. Now let's say, now here's a vice president of Goldman Sachs in the Salt Lake area. Now I'm not connected to this person, Kyle Buse, but I know people who are. These are, looks like there's 11 people that I personally know that know Kyle as well. So I could reach out to these individuals right here and say, hey, can you make an introduction to Kyle Buse? And 9 times out of 10, the person would be more than happy to do that. Now you're connected with a VP at Goldman Sachs, and there's a very good chance that they will accept that invite if it's sent from someone that you both mutually know. So that's one powerful way. The other, if you don't have a common connection, the other way is to send a connection request. Now, I don't ever do this without putting something, I don't want to call it catchy because that sounds salesy, but without putting something personal in there. So let's say I'm in banking, then the easiest way would to be, I'm a student at Weber State in banking, looking to, grow in that industry or break into that industry or connect with others in banking. Can we connect? Send it like that, keep it very short and simple. And 9 times out of 10, you're going to have them actually connect with you. And again, just geek out a little bit and filter down by your connections and locations. That honestly is probably one of the best things that we could possibly do to get that immediate traction. So let me get back to our online networking. The takeaway here, if you don't have a LinkedIn account, get one by the end of the day. And then start connecting with leaders in that industry or peers or people that you've read articles from. Anyone that writes articles in an industry, they love connecting with people. So do a little research, but make that your action item. That's your takeaway, is to get on LinkedIn. The other way too is to make sure that you spend time actually connecting with them and commenting on their posts. It's an easy way for them to get to know, like, whoa, I've heard this name before. And then the more you do that, the more likely they are to engage with you. I just want to spend a quick moment. I know we're getting short on time. The LinkedIn profile, there's a lot of default profiles with just a picture and a blue background. That's a lot of free real estate that they're giving you. That should tell your story. So mine, about a month ago, said all things cybersecurity and anti-fraud. And I'd like to change mine up a little bit, and now it talks more about my podcast. But that's a great way to really stand out from the crowd. So I would recommend that you do go in there. There's a YouTube link by Heather Austin. If you just go on YouTube and you type Heather Austin LinkedIn, you're gonna find she gives some of the most amazing tips on how to actually improve your profile. And that's really where people go to find talent now. It isn't just resume searching. A lot of times you're going to be recruited based on what you put on your LinkedIn profile. Industry certifications, please, 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 please be among the crowd that gets certifications and continues to get certifications. If you're not a geek like me, then these won't mean anything to you. But anyone that I'm hiring, or even if I were applying for, those are all their gold standards. And I hear often, well, I can't get a certification because I don't have the years of experience. Certifications will let you actually take the test, get certified, and then you will be an associate until you have the years of experience. Now, on a resume, the companies use these algorithms, and they're looking for specific industry certifications in your resume. And if you have them on there, you're going to get picked up. So one thing I would do is if you're studying for a certification, or you want to, put that on your resume to say actively studying for this certification. And now when you submit your resume, it's going to pop up, and then the recruiter or whoever's reviewing it will see you don't have it, but you're actively studying for it. Last thing I want to hit on real quick is just around being mentored and asking to be mentored. When I started my first business, it was in photography. I knew I loved taking pictures, but I didn't know the slightest about lighting and angles and depth of field and apertures and shutter speeds, all those things. So I asked a lot of photographers if they'd let me just work for them for free, shadow. I would do all of it at their time, at their convenience, and I had a mentor pick me up right away. When I was trying to break into the industry, I did the same thing. I shadowed technical people and just said, I don't want to annoy you, but at your availability, I'd love to come and sit with you just so I can learn. And you'd be amazed at how willing people are to mentor when you ask in a professional way. Don't annoy people. Here's one that happened just 2 weeks ago. I get asked often, hey, can you mentor me? I'm trying to break in. And at different points in my life, I can, and at different points, I just can't. Well, Rachel here, she did. She reached out to me, and this was her exact message. And she was professional about it. She had done her research. She had listened to my podcast. She knew exactly what she was getting into, but she left it open. Are you open for a discovery call? And, had she just said, hey, I can't get a job, can you help me? I probably would have given the normal response that I normally do. But instead, I was like, yeah, I'll invest in you. So there's different ways to go about being a mentee. Just be a respectful mentee and get used to it's okay to be told no. And it's not because they don't like you or they don't want to invest in you. It just may not be a good time for them. So always be cognizant about when you approach people to be mentored. That's the takeaway on that slide, is seek a mentor. And then the last thing I'll end with is just be flexible. A lot of times your dream job doesn't start with your next job. A lot of times it's that journey. I knew I wanted to be into cyber and to anti-fraud, and it was a true journey to get there. It involved even becoming an auditor, which I never thought I would do. I never thought that would be part of my career, but thankfully it is, and made a significant impact on my career. So when you're looking for jobs or trying to break in, be flexible on, don't just narrow it down to that one specific title. Go a little bit more broad and just realize this isn't your career. You don't have to commit to it for 40 years. But that's a great stepping stone into a competitive market. And especially as you're trying to stand out and get ahead of the crowd, to show that you've worked in kind of a stepping stone manner is a huge win from an employer's perspective. So that was my last slide. There's takeaways on each of these, and Brett, I'm more than happy to send these to you if you want that. But the last takeaway is just go get it. Too often students just don't realize they do have what the employers are looking for. They're not telling their story. They're not sharing with them the truth about the experience that they bring. And that's really what will make you stand out. So at this point, I'm going to open it up to Q&A, Brett.
Yeah. So Matt, this is great. Thank you very much. And um, this entire presentation in this format will be available on our website. So if you go into Google and Google Zoom Career Bytes, then it'll take you to the home page, and it will show you that there will be a link for this presentation, and there will be a link for the other presentations we've had thus far in this series. So you can go back and review all or parts of this presentation, um, which is incredibly important. So Matt, I've got a couple of questions
Okay.
that have been submitted.
Okay.
One is, if I don't meet all of the requirements that are listed on a job description, should I still apply for the job?
Yes. You notice I didn't hesitate one bit. The answer is yes. And the reason for it is there's a reason that they're posting that job. It's because they need talent. And especially if you see on job boards that postings have been listed for greater than 30 days, that means that whoever's applying isn't really meeting their criteria. And especially right now in a budget constrained economy, this is the best time to apply for jobs, because where people were seeking senior, consultant, executive positions, those have now all been downgraded. And I don't mean that in a derogatory way, but in terms of the pay and the expectation, those have all dropped. So the answer is absolutely yes. Don't stop at just submitting the resume. Go to LinkedIn, find who works there, find someone that you mutually know, and get them your resume too. And just say, hey, I just wanted to throw this out there. I know I don't meet the years of experience, but here's what I can bring to the table.
Okay, great. Another question, and it's more of a statement, but there's somewhere a question wrapped in
Okay.
there. It says, but people don't actually post on LinkedIn. I've been on it for years and never seen a single post from anyone.
I think I'd need a little bit more clarity on what they mean by post, but you know, when I refer to a post on LinkedIn, it's not necessarily a job posting. But if you remember back in our when we went into LinkedIn, you can actually see jobs there, and that will list all the different jobs. I post on LinkedIn almost daily. If you connect with me, you'll see that I'm very active on that. So I think that's a little bit more of a, if I'm understanding it correctly, I don't know that the statement's actually true. It's probably the most used platform for any business professional, and maybe it's just the way I'm understanding post
No,
there. But
I think you clarified it. Yeah, people do not post, usually don't post jobs. There'll be people that go out there, especially now, may post their resumes and say, I'm looking for a job.
yeah,
But guys, let me add to Matt's comments. The power for you to be able to, for example, find a article, and most articles that you can find that are online, you have the ability to go post them onto LinkedIn and make a comment, 3 to 4 lines on the comment, that they give you that perception by everyone views it that you're in the game and that you have authority on that particular subject. That post is then seen by everybody that is in your network.
mm-hmm.
And then if they comment on it or like on it, then it's seen by everybody in their network. And so it's like your post is throwing a pebble into the water, and man, those ripples go out really fast.
They do. And Marshall, if I didn't address that, please connect with me on LinkedIn, and I'd be happy to hop on the phone with you too and help you see the value in it. Now, I'm not here to convince you or convince everyone that it's the right thing. It may depend on the industry that you're seeking. There may be some industries that there really isn't the value there. But as I mentioned before, the average salary is $100,000, the user on LinkedIn. So the people who have the job that you want or are going after are there on LinkedIn. Yeah.
Matt, can you see the next question is from Braden?
Yep.
And just for everybody to hear the question, I'll read it. Matt can address it. It says, Matt, thank you for your time. I'm currently studying for the Security Plus certification. I'm wondering, where would I fit that into my resume?
Perfect. So congrats for even seeking additional learning. That will get you ahead of every candidate that applies for the same job, has the same bachelor's degree that you do or master's. And but doesn't have that certification, you're now one step up, you're standing up. So you would put that under technical training or something to that effect. And it's okay that you put security, CompTIA Security Plus, and then to the right, you would just say, you know, sitting for exam on this day and this year, something to that effect. But it's okay to say, I'm actively pursuing this. And that's a great certification to break into. It's one you don't have to have any years of experience. Good job,
Right.
Braden.
Good. Okay. The next one is from Greg. How should a technical resume differ from resumes in non-technical fields?
Good question, Greg. I actually feel like make a technical resume less technical and you'll stand out. Too often for technical positions, they write it as if a technical person's hiring them, and that's generally not the case. Generally, it's a business person or someone that has more of a business background will be their manager. Not in all cases. I'm not saying that across the board, but in many cases, it's a non-technical person that's hiring. So I always tell the people that I coach to write a very technical resume in a very non-technical way, and you will stand out tremendously. So it's okay to list out acronyms and be nerdy like that, but too often I've seen technical resumes that even, I mean, they might have well have been written in binary, like just err on the side of being more business friendly. They're also being screened by non-technical people. Unless it's like a tech firm and that's all they do is tech, chances are you're going to have that resume screened by someone who doesn't understand what the acronyms are. So I always err on the side of being more business.
Great. Thank you. So Ryan's got two questions. I'll lead off with the first. It says,
Okay.
I have 1 year left of school and have found some positions I would like. How soon should I be applying? Is 1 year too far out?
Ryan, thanks for even proactively looking for a position a year out. It doesn't hurt to apply. Likely they'll want to see that degree in hand before you get the position, but often they'll have an associate position. So many times you can apply for the job as if you did have your degree and they're open to it to bring you in and say, hey, we know you're still getting your schooling. You got a year left. We'll bring you on at this grade. But then once you complete it, then we can bump you up to what we're actually looking for. That's one approach. It happens probably less than it does often. So the other approach would be to start connecting with those individuals at that company. It sounds like you know the exact company you want to work for, and just rub shoulders with them, even if it's virtually. Find out where they are at, you know, if they're attending an industry conference, if they're on online forums, if they have a blog. This is a perfect time to start letting them know who you are well in advance to when you get your degree. People do that with me all the time. They let me know well in advance before they actually have their degree, and it keeps me kind of have their names top of mind. Yeah, great question, Ryan.
Perfect. And here's Ryan's second question. What skills do you often see newly graduated students lacking within the cyber field?
I think most cyber students have in their mind a specific area in cybersecurity that they want to work. They want to do pen testing, or they want to do vulnerability management, or identity, or ethical hacking, whatever the case may be. They have a domain in mind. And what I always look for, especially from a student who's fresh and new to the field, is what have they done on their own that would want me to hire them in a technical niche position. So where I see most students lacking in any industry is what are they doing in their personal time that's helping them advance in their professional career. So in a cyber position or any technical position, there's so many labs and trainings that are free and online. I look for people who that's what they're doing on the weekend, is going through and they're learning every tool that's out there that's open source. And when they can put that on a resume and actually talk to it in an interview, now you're not just one step ahead of the candidate, you're many steps ahead, because that proves to me that you care about continual learning. You care more about than you just can check a box to say you've got 5 years of experience. Great question, Ryan. If you want to connect with me on LinkedIn, I'd be happy to point you to some of those free trainings that I look for.
And Matt, the last question for the day, and then we'll wrap it up. it kind of says, are there any guidelines to the length of time you should invest in a job before you take a next step in career advancement? Something that would not throw a red flag for a candidate in an interview.
Great question. I'm glad you asked that. If I see people work for an organization for less than a year, I really ask why. You know, it costs between $10,000 and $20,000 to bring on the average person to a job that pays $50,000. So if you want to be someone who's always hopping from company to company, your minimum's a year. The shortest I've ever been at a company was 2.5 years. And the longest to date was about 5 years. So it's a big red flag if someone's here 3 months, 9 months, another year, those are big red flags. Because to me, it's like, I'm just going to hire you for temporary work. I won't invest in you.
Matt, this has been awesome. Thank you very much for taking the time. And I think everybody that's been listening knows that all the things, great things I said about you are a very conservative, modest introduction for you. You have great understanding of the marketplace within the cyber field and across. So thank you for giving us this time.
Thanks, Brett. Thanks to everyone that joined.
I want to give everybody just a reminder that next Wednesday we'll have again another Zoom Career Bites. This presentation will be by Susan Hostetter, and Susan is the Senior Vice President of Human Resources at Tab Bank. And she's going to be talking about a really cool, important topic, and is what do recruiters look for in an interview? She's going to be talking about your body language, the type of questions, how you answer the questions, how you present yourself. It'll be a very interactive, fun way to be able to look at it. And at the end, you should be able to come away with ways to shine in your interview that will build upon what Matt's talking about, is just another way to stand out in the marketplace. So thank you for joining us today. Matt, thank you very much. Everybody have a great week.
Thanks, everyone.